Hello students, I am once again welcoming you all in my lecture session on classical optics, that is lecture series on classical optics for physics 1. Myself Dr. Sucharita Bhattacharya from Guru Nanak Institute of Technology, Kolkata is delivering the lecture session for first semester BTech course, and the streams I am considering are computer science and engineering, information technology and food technology. Today I am starting the lecture session 7. Now let us take a look what is there. Now you students already know that we are continuing the submodule 2.02 on diffraction of light for module 2 on classical optics. Today I will deliver the lecture session 3 of diffraction of light, where I will cover Fraunhofer diffraction due to multiple slits, so called grating, intensity distribution, the missing order and its different applications. The questions to be addressed in today's session are: what is a grating? How to arrange end slits to obtain the grating diffraction? What about intensity expression for grating? Is it a generalized expression valid for any number of slits? Explain the intensity pattern, how to explain it? Then intensity distribution curve, we will go for it. Then different applications of grating, we will take a look, including the missing order related to grating. So let us start our today's session. Okay. Now, diffraction due to n parallel slits where n is greater than 2, that is number of slits greater than 2 in general is called the grating. The arrangement consisting of large number of parallel slits of same width and separated by equal opaque spaces in general is known as diffraction grating. It was first constructed by none other than Fraunhofer. Now let us take a look at this picture. Here, grating is found to be prepared by drawing lines on a well-polished thin uniform glass sheet with a sharp diamond point. So on a thin uniform well-polished sheet of glass, if you use a sharp diamond point, you will put the lines, the groups or the rule lines, which will scatter the light under effective like opaque substances, while the undisturbed parts between two lines is transparent to light and behave like slits. Just take a look. Say this is a well polished thin uniform glass sheet on which lines are drawn. Definitely with the help of sharp diamond point, when you will plot the line or draw the lines, you will not get this type of black lines. Rather than the cuts or the groups you will find. And from the position of the cuts or the groups, the incident light is found to be scattered. The incident light is found to be scattered just like the opaque substances. And in between the lines, you will find the transparent portion of the glass through which light is found to be transmitted, just like the case of slit. Okay. So the parallel arrangement of slit and separated by equal opaque spaces, that is in general the grating is called a term. So this is already shown here. Now the number of lines drawn per centimeter for good quality grating, it is 7,000 to 8,000. It can be even more. Okay. So in general, it will vary. For the lab, we have our number of lines per centimeter in the given grating is around 1,000 per centimeter. But for good quality grating, it should be more, and 7,000 to 8,000 per centimeter, it is for a very good quality grating. And this type of grating is termed as transmission grating, because light is transmitted through the glass between the two lines. Okay. But if the lines are drawn on a silvered surface, light is reflected from the positions of the mirrors in between any two lines. Naturally, it forms reflection grating. So, in case of the silvered surface, light is found to be reflected between the positions of the mirrors in between any two lines drawn like here. So, these are termed as reflection grating. Now, as per our syllabus, we will concentrate on transmission grating. Okay. Now for diffraction, we have to be careful about one thing which I already mentioned in my previous class, that is the spacing between the lines is of the order of wavelength. Previously, I mentioned that diffraction aperture must be of the order of wavelength of light under consideration. Then only an appreciable deviation of light is produced, that is diffraction phenomenon you will get. In case of grating, it is mentioned that spacing between the lines must be of the order of wavelength. Now, Fraunhofer diffraction due to the grating, Ainsley diffraction grating. Now, this is the diagram. Let us consider the section of a plane transmission grating where E is the slit width, n number of slits which are arranged parallel to each other by equal opaque spaces, separated by equal opaque spaces. So width of each slit E and separated by equal opaque spaces B. B is the width of each opaque part and E plus B is termed as the grating element. So the entire section of a plane transmission grating is shown here, where you are getting parallel arrangement of n number of slits of same width E separated by equal opaque space B, and E plus B is termed as the grating element. Now, a screen is placed in the focal plane of the focusing lens L. A screen XY is placed in the focal plane of the focusing lens L. A parallel beam of monochromatic light of wavelength lambda is incident normally on the plane of the grating. That means corresponding wavefront is plane wavefront, because you all know on the left side we will use another lens in the focus of which we keep the monochromatic source. Naturally, the incident beam of light is parallel and the wavefront is plane wavefront. Now, according to Huygens principle, infinite number of points of each slit send secondary spherical wavelets in all directions. So, as soon as these waves occupy the plane of the slits, definitely each and every point, infinite number of points in each slit will be considered as sources of secondary spherical wavefront or wavelets, which are radiated out to the right hand side in all possible directions. Now the secondary wavelets which are traveling normally to the slit comes to a focus at O on the screen. So O is the position of central maximum. So out of all possible directions, like previous two cases of single slit and the double slit, here we also consider two set of beams which are coming out normal to the slit and converging at O, and the other set of beams which are coming out by making an angle theta to the normal and converging at some point P on the screen. Now, so since the light wave, secondary wavelets traveling in a direction theta to the normal will reach P on passing through the convex lens in different phases because paths are unequal. So, dark and bright fringes or bands on both sides of central maxima are observed. On both sides of central maxima, we can get dark and bright fringes due to the waves diffracted at an angle theta to the normal, because they are passing through the lens in different phases. Naturally, we will obtain the dark and bright fringes there. But in case of O, since the path difference is zero, as per the alignment or the orientation with respect to all the slits, so total phase difference is zero. So O will be the position of central maximum always. Okay. Now, the intensity at P is obtained by applying the theory of Fraunhofer diffraction due to both single slit as well as double slit. In the last two sessions, we have explained how to get the intensity due to single slit and due to double slit. Now, in case of grating, that is N slit, we will now combine the theory of both single slit as well as double slit to get the intensity expression. Now, as per the treatment of double slit diffraction, you can replace theoretically the effect of all secondary wavelets in every slit by single waves, each of same amplitude, that is the same resultant amplitude, due to a single slit, starting from their middle point and traveling at an angle theta to the normal. In the last class, we have discussed that out of each single slit, you have infinite number of secondary wavelets coming out. So effect of all secondary wavelets can be theoretically replaced by a single wave, provided it carries the resultant amplitude of all the secondary wavelets coming out of the single slit in a direction theta to the normal. Now, what about the path difference between the waves coming from consecutive slits? So here we have n number of secondary wavelets which are coming out, each having the amplitude value which is resultant due to each single slit in the direction theta. But since you are considering that they are diffracted at an angle theta to the normal, so there is a path difference between the waves coming from consecutive paths. How to get that path difference? From this point, we will drop a perpendicular which will make the same angle theta just like this. Then what about the path difference? From this point, the paths are equal. So if you drop a perpendicular here, say at C, then BC will be the corresponding path difference. What about that path difference? E plus B sine theta. Already we calculated it twice for single slit and double slit. That's why I am not repeating it once more. So for any consecutive slits, for the n slit case, you will get the same thing. So the common path difference between two waves coming from consecutive slits is calculated to be same, that is E plus B sine theta, with a common and corresponding phase difference, that is 2 pi by lambda into E plus B sine theta as well. That means using the second double slit diffraction, what we did in the last class, that consideration we have taken here. Okay. Now, the problem to determine the intensity at P reduces to find the resultant amplitude and intensity of n vibrations, each of amplitude small a equal to a sine alpha by alpha resultant due to each, and having a common phase difference of 2 pi by lambda into E plus B sine theta, that is delta, equal to twice beta, because beta equal to pi by lambda into E plus B sine theta. It is given by R equal to A sine n delta by 2 by sine delta by 2. That we considered in case of calculation for single slit diffraction. That is the resultant of n vibration, each of amplitude small a, and having a common phase difference of delta. The resultant amplitude is given by A sine n delta by 2 by sine delta by 2. Now, in our case, what about the situation? Small a is equivalent to A sine alpha by alpha. So in place of small a, we will put A sine alpha by alpha. Now sine small n is replaced by capital N because number of slits is capital N. Now delta by 2. What about delta in our case? This is the delta. So delta by 2 means pi by lambda into E plus B sine theta. Similarly, sine delta by 2, sine pi by lambda E plus B sine theta. And mind it, delta equal to twice beta. So delta by 2 means beta. You can express it in terms of beta 2. So resultant amplitude for n slit is expressed as r equal to a sine alpha by alpha sine n pi by lambda e plus b sine theta by sine pi by lambda e plus b sine theta. So these portions result what we are using, that we have already used for single slit diffraction for n vibration, and these portions considerations we have discussed in case of double slit diffraction. So the Fraunhofer diffraction due to n slit we are using here or getting here using the combination of single slit and double slit diffraction theory. Now, resultant amplitude in terms of beta. So, R equal to A sine alpha by alpha sine n beta by sine beta. If you just take a look at the last one, you will find it, last expression, that this is nothing but beta, pi by lambda e plus b sine theta. So, it is sine n beta divided by sine beta. So what about the resultant intensity? I equal to K into R square. I equal to K into R square. That means what we are getting? I proportional to R square, proportionality constant is K. So here we are getting I, K square equal to I0, sine square alpha by alpha square, sine square n beta by sine square beta. So resultant amplitude square is the intensity. So we are getting the resultant intensity due to n slits as I equal to I0 sine square alpha by alpha square sine square n beta by sine square beta. That means here we have the combination of two terms. Take a look. The first term with which you are very much familiar, this term gives the distribution of intensity due to single slit. And what about the second term? This term gives the distribution of intensity as a combined effect of all n slits. So you can consider this is to be interference term. So this is single slit diffraction contribution. This is the n slit diffraction contribution, so-called interference term. That means each of the n slits give rise to a diffracted beam, and then they interfere or superpose with one another to produce the final diffraction pattern. So individually they produce the diffracted beam, then this diffracted beam superpose or combine or interfere to produce the final diffraction pattern. Okay. Now, let us come to the special case, that is n equal to 1. So, single slit. So, put the value of n equal to 1 here. What you will expect? I equal to I0 sine square alpha by alpha square. That is single slit diffraction you are getting. If you put n equal to 2, then it is the double slit case. It should be sine 2 beta, means 2 sine beta cos beta whole square. So 4 sine square beta cos square beta by sine square beta. So what you are getting? 4 cos square beta out of this factor, that is expected for double slit diffraction. So this is the generalized expression for intensity due to n slits, from where you can get back any intensity for single slit, double slit, etc. Okay. Sorry. Now, let us come to the case of grating intensity. Now, already we have seen that there are two terms in the resultant I. One is I0 sine square alpha by alpha square, whose contribution to the intensity already we discussed twice. That's why I am not doing it once more. And what about the second term? That is sine n beta by sine beta whole square, the so-called interference term. Let us now take a look of its contribution to the resultant grating intensity diffraction pattern. Now, to get principal maximum out of this factor, what about the condition sine beta equal to 0? So, beta equal to plus minus n pi. And what is the value of beta? Pi by lambda e plus b sine theta equal to plus minus n pi. That means e plus b sine theta equal to plus minus n lambda. So this is the condition for principal interference maxima for n slit diffraction. Obviously, n represent the order of interference maxima. What about the values of n? You know that is 0, 1, 2, 3. The values of n are 0, 1, 2, 3, representing zero order principal maximum and other orders maxima lying on either side of it, because plus minus will come into play. Okay. Now, what about the maximum value out of this term? Sin n beta by sin beta. From this term, what about the maximum contribution will come out? To find out that, we already got the limit, that is beta tending to plus minus n pi. Let us use the limit on this expression, that is sin n beta by sin beta. If you directly put the value, what you will find? 0 by 0 indeterminate. So we have to use L'Hospital rule. Accordingly, we will take dd beta of sin n beta by dd beta of sin beta. What about the result? Just look at the result is plus minus n. So from sin n beta by sin beta, the maximum value in the limit of principal maxima we got as plus minus n. That means the intensity of principal maxima is proportional to n square and is modulated by the single slit diffraction term, that is I0 sine square alpha by alpha square. Now look here, for single slit n equal to 1, so you didn't get anything with this factor, only you got this. In case of double slit, it is 2 square, that is 4. So 4 factor you already got in case of double slit, which is modulated by this single slit diffraction term. So I think things are becoming very clear to all of you, isn't that? Let us now come to the case of minima. Now how to get minima out of this? Obviously sin n beta must be 0. But be careful about one thing, that sin beta is not equal to 0. So because sin beta equal to 0 means condition of principal maxima. So what about n beta? Plus minus n pi. What about beta? Plus minus m pi by n. Now m, what is the value of m? The order of minima. We will explore what about the exact orders of m, but about one thing we have to be very sure, that m should not be equal to small n into capital N. Because if m equal to small n into capital N, then capital N will cancel out and you will get beta equal to plus minus n pi, which is the condition for principal maxima. So we will not consider m to be equal to small n into capital N. Now let us get the exact values of beta, that means in terms of pi, in terms of m, I'm sorry, that is how to get beta in terms of the limiting values of m, that is the order of minima up to which you can allow for n slit diffraction. Okay. So if you put the value of beta, you know, pi by lambda into e plus b sine theta equal to plus minus m pi by n, you will get e plus b sine theta equal to plus minus m lambda by n. This is the condition for minima in terms of path difference for n slit diffraction. Now let us put the values of m explicitly in this expression. So e plus b sine theta equal to plus minus, we know m starts with 1, because n equal to 0 we will not consider, because that gives the principal maxima. That's why. So let us start with 1, m equal to 1 lambda by n. Next is plus minus 2 lambda by n. Then plus minus 3 lambda by n. But up to which we will go? Up to which we can go? So to get an idea about it, let us compare the expression with principal maxima expression, that is e plus b sine theta equal to plus minus n lambda. Now why I am talking about the comparison with principal maxima? Because you know the minima are located between the consecutive principal maxima. Naturally, let us take a look at the explicit formation of principal maxima by taking the values of n, the order of the principal interference maxima. E plus b sine theta, n value with which we start, n equal to 0, the central principal maxima. Next, first order principal maxima plus minus 1 lambda, second order principal maxima plus minus 2 lambda, third order principal maxima plus minus 3 lambda, and so on. Okay. Now to compare with this minima expression, let us write them in a different form. 0 remains same, plus minus 1 lambda. That means first order maxima, it can be written as capital N lambda by N. Capital N lambda by N. N will cancel out, you will get 1 lambda. 2 lambda can be written as 2n lambda by n. 3 lambda can be written as 3n lambda by n, and so on. Okay. So this is central maxima. This is first order maxima. This is second order maxima. This is third order maxima, and so on. So in between two consecutive maxima, that is central and the first order, you will accommodate the minima. How many? It is 0, then n. Look here. In after 0, what you will get? 1 lambda by n, 2 lambda by n, 3 lambda by n, up to which you will go n minus 1 lambda by n. So there will be n minus 1 number of minima. N minus 1 number of minima accommodated between central maxima and first order maxima. Clear? Between first order and second order maxima, again you have to accommodate the minima, which will start after n. So after n, next term, n plus 1 lambda by n, then n plus 2 lambda by n, up to which you will move 2n minus 1 lambda by n, because this term is 2n lambda by n. So between first order and second order interference maxima, you are getting what? You are getting n minus 1 number of minima, equal space minima. Now between the second order and the third order, it will start from 2n plus 1 lambda by n, 2n plus 2 lambda by n, up to which it will go 3n minus 1 lambda by n. That means before the maxima, the last term of minima you will get, and how many the numbers? N minus 1 in all cases. So we can say that between consecutive interference maxima, there are always n minus 1 number of equal space minima. Between consecutive interference maxima, there are n minus 1 number of equal space minima. Okay. Now, if there are only minima between consecutive interference maxima, you cannot identify first order minima, second order minima like that. That means there must be some secondary or subsidiary maxima even in the interference term. Up to second order diffraction, you didn't get any secondary maxima in the interference term. You got those in the diffraction term. But when n increases beyond 2, the situation changes. Now, how to get secondary maxima? Use the rule of calculus, the common one, dd beta of sine n beta by sine beta equal to 0, to get the condition for secondary maxima as n tan beta equal to tan n beta. Very easy. Take the derivative, you will find it. Naturally, this is the condition for secondary maxima for n-slit diffraction. The roots of this equation other than beta equal to plus minus n pi gives the position of secondary maxima, which are not of equal intensity. That is very, very important. But decrease gradually because they are secondary maxima as one goes out on either side of principal maxima. So beta equal to plus minus n pi give us the position of principal maxima. So the values of beta which satisfy this equation but not equal to plus minus n pi, they will give us the position of secondary maxima which are not of equal intensity. In case of principal maxima, they were of equal intensity we got, that is n square, but here they are not of equal intensity but decrease gradually. Now, the resultant diffraction pattern as a whole suffers a modification as the number of slits increases beyond 2. So in case of grating diffraction pattern, from the above discussions, we can conclude that the resultant diffraction pattern suffers a modification as the number of slits increases beyond 2. The maxima occupy the same position in each figure, but the only effect of increasing number of slits consists in narrowing and increasing the sharpness of principal interference maxima, because you have to accommodate more and more interference maxima within the central single slit diffraction maxima. Next is, moreover, there appears weak secondary maxima between any two adjacent principal maxima. Already I mentioned that. Sorry. It is shown that between principal maxima of 0 order and 1 order, there are n minus 1 equally spaced points of 0 intensity. Already we have seen that, or minima. Definitely, the number of other subsidiary maxima will be n minus 2. Already we have seen the number of minima between the consecutive interference maxima are n minus 1. So what about the number of secondary maxima? Obviously, it will be n minus 2 because it will start after the minima and it will end before the next minima. It will start after one minima and end before the next minima. Naturally, the number of secondary maxima will be n minus 2. Let us now move to the next slide to look at the diagrams. Okay. Now for three slits, before going to the diagram, let us complete it. That for example, for three slits, there is only one secondary maxima. Because for three slits, number of minima will be 2. And for four slits, there will be two secondary maxima. So number of minima will be, the two secondary maxima means number of minima will be 3. Okay. With very large number of slits, in the same way, the principal interference maxima become very sharp, narrow lines. It is proportional to n square intensity, already we have seen, while the intensity of secondary maxima becomes negligibly small because the total energy or intensity of incident light is conserved. If maximum light is contained within the principal interference maxima, then negligible light is remaining for the secondary maxima. And if n is very large, the intensity of secondary maxima will be so small that they will not be visible in the resultant diffraction pattern. When you will do the grating experiment in the physics lab, you will verify this statement. Okay. Now let us take a look. The comparative study between n equal to 1, n equal to 2 and n equal to 3. Just take a look. This is n equal to 1, the central diffraction maxima, then secondary maxima. In case of n equal to 2, in the form of missing orders, you are getting the number of interference maxima to be accommodated in the region normally occupied by the single slit diffraction pattern. Clear? Now, when n equal to 3, just take a look. What is the maximum change? The gross change. Between the interference maxima, you are getting the secondary maxima to be accommodated in addition to minima. Here, these are the minima only. How many should be the number of minima? N equal to 2. So n minus 1, that is 1. You got. What should be the number of secondary maxima? N minus 2. So 2 minus 2 equal to 0. So no secondary maxima is arising here. But in case of n equal to 3, number of secondary maxima should be 1, 1 each. We got them, though the intensity reduces. And what should be the number of minima? 2 between consecutive interference maxima. 1, 2. Similarly here, 1, 2. This is the situation. Now let us take a look at the overall intensity distribution for n slit diffraction Here along y, it is the intensity. Along this is the sine theta term. Just take a look. Since n is very large, so the lines what you are appearing in this part, that means in this portion, the single slit diffraction envelope. These are the interference maxima you are getting. Just take a look. They are very sharp and narrow. They are very sharp and narrow. Compared to this, that was broader, it is now sharper. It is much sharp because the number of slits increases. That's why. And just take a look. The secondary maxima, here also you will get the idea. The secondary maxima is starting after the minima and it is ending before the, after the secondary maxima is starting after minima, okay, and ending before the last minima. That means in between two minima, how many secondary maxima you are getting? One. Similarly, if you increase the number of slits, it will be increasing more and more. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 number of minima you are getting. So number of secondary maxima is 3. That means total number of slits considered here is n equal to 5. N equal to 5. So they are even more sharp and the narrow. So this is the situation, and I hope all of you are understanding it very clearly with the help of these pictures, isn't that? Now, some applications of grating, which we encounter regularly also in our lab. If theta n be the angle of diffraction for nth order principal interference maxima, then this formula is very much known to you all. E plus b sine theta n equal to n lambda. Only in the suffix we have added n because it is the nth order diffraction angle. That's why. So what about lambda? E plus b sine theta n by n. Now, if n is the number of lines per centimeter of the grating, then n equal to 1 by E plus B. What about E? Slit width. What about B? Separation between consecutive slits. So what about n? Number of lines per centimeter. Obviously, it is equal to 1 by E plus B. So from this above expression, you can get lambda equal to sine theta n by small n into capital N. This is nothing but the expression to determine the wavelength of a given monochromatic light using diffraction grating. Here lambda is unknown. Theta you will determine from the lab experiment. N is the order of the maxima you will get from the laboratory experiment, and capital N is the number of lines per centimeter of the grating which will be supplied to you. Okay. So using this formula, you can determine lambda, which you will do in the physics lab after a few months. Clear? Now let us use the same formula, but in a little bit different way to get something different. Here, replace the position of n and lambda. You will get n equal to E plus B sine theta by lambda. What about n? N is the order of the interference maxima or other diffraction pattern maxima as a whole to be observed. Clear? Now, how to get n maximum? This factor if comes out to be 1, then you will get n maximum. That means n maximum, the maximum observable order for the resultant diffraction pattern is E plus B by lambda for n slit diffraction or grating case. Now, if grating element E plus B is given as less or equal to 2 lambda, of the order of lambda already I mentioned, less or equal to 2 lambda, then maximum observable order is up to second order, because less or equal to 2 lambda means 0, 1 up to 2 you can observe the maximum orders. Okay. Now let us come to the case of the missing order, with which you are already got the idea in very detail in the last session on double slit. So just similarly, you can consider these two expressions or the conditions E plus B sine theta equal to plus minus n lambda for principal interference maxima and E sine theta equal to plus minus m lambda for single slit diffraction minima. Now, if both the conditions are satisfied simultaneously, a particular maximum of order n is found to be missed out in the grading spectrum. That means if you consider they are overlap, they are satisfied simultaneously, the condition for missing order, you will get E plus B by E equal to n by m. Now, for example, if you want to suppress, say, second order, okay, that means n should be equal to 2. So you need n by m to be equal to 2. In that case, by using m equal to 1, you can get n equal to 2 to be suppressed. That means the condition you have to choose is E equal to B for missing order. Because if E equal to B, that is slit width equal to the separation between the slits, then from here you will get n by m equal to 2. So by putting m equal to 1, you can get n equal to 2. So second order you can suppress very easily. So I think all the important points to be discussed in today's class, I have discussed in very detail with all clarifications as well as the corresponding figures, and you have enjoyed it, isn't that? So all the students, thank you for your cooperation. Stay safe, stay healthy. So I am ending my today's session. Bye, students.